Yes, I think it's recording. It is recording. Okay, guys, thank you for coming again to another edition of the Coffee Chats. I'm just wearing this. My gran actually knitted this hat. This is why I'm wearing it. I've been cold. It's cold now. It's cold in the house this morning. I woke up and the AC was on. So today we're going to be talking all things mental health and exercise. If anyone's been looking at the news, it's huge in the minute in all the media. There's loads of stuff going on in social media. It's in all the news outlets, the UK, America, UAE. And I think it's something that after the novelty of lockdown is over, people are starting to go, actually, well, how long will this last? How is it going to affect my mental health? What are the implications, both positive and negative? So we thought it'd be a good thing to bring up at Coffee Chats today. First of all, Foster's, what's been happening with you? How's your training going this week?
Oh, it's going fantastic. I've actually roped in my flatmates to start going up and down stairs more often with me, and they're all being accountable. Here's one who's going to do his morning effort. Personally, my training's been very much stairs and body weight exercise orientated, but it's been going well. Been doing it every morning to try and get into a rhythm, and then in the afternoons I do some core work if time allows. How about you?
What's your favorite stairs exercise?
Well, running up them.
Is that all you do? Do you just run up them?
Straight up. There's 97 of them though, and I regularly do them twice, so it's a fair old chunk of time.
I wrote an article yesterday that you'll like. Actually, it's on stair training, so you have to give that a read because it's got loads of different workouts you can do on the stairs. There's loads of people that train on the stairs, right? Yeah, what have I done? I've literally just finished that goddamn FTP test again.
Did you do it?
I did it again. That's why I'm wearing the hat. My body doesn't know what's going on. It's freezing. I felt like I was going to cough up a lung. I was bleeding through my nose. Anyway.
That's how it should go, right?
Then. What's coming up? Lots of the same, really, isn't it? Everyone's doing, well, actually, this weekend, Saturday, I think there's a worldwide garden marathon happening.
Overtraining.
Overtraining. So you won't be taking part in that.
It's a nice show of solidarity, right? But it's just a bit mental. Like that bloke who did the marathon over his porch, 7-meter porch or something. That was next level.
Yeah, I definitely won't be doing that either. Not because I can, just I don't really want to.
Yeah, totally fair.
Things we can do. Okay, right. Nothing really has been happening that's interesting. So let's move on. Mental health and exercise then. You've been reading some studies on this, haven't you?
Indeed, I have. So actually,
some knowledge with this.
There's not that much knowledge to hit you with. There's loads of studies, but Tom, I don't know if you got the email yesterday, the mail went out that links you to our coaching articles, and Tom Walker did a really good article which summarizes all the points quite nicely in a classic Tom Walker way. Basically, there's a hell of a lot of studies going on at the minute, and there has been into mental health and how exercise affects it. So basically, what does exercise do for you if you exercise and you're suffering from anxiety or depression? It gives you, firstly, biological cascade, so all the good things that happen, so endorphin release in the brain, heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes down. All these physiological factors release stress, which is a very nice thing to have if you are feeling anxious or depressed. So releasing good endorphins, so things that make you feel happy and satisfied with life, happens after exercise. Like runner's high, that happens is the release of chemicals, which is very important to self-efficacy or feelings of self-worth and satisfaction. Also, a nice little thing that was found as being consistently found is the regenerative can't speak capacity of exercise. So basically, in this really funny area of the brain, which I find it very difficult to pronounce, northern redo it, like the resynthesis of brain cells in the hypothalamic area, which is to do, well, what happens there is your emotions and emotional responses. So increasing the nerves and the health of the nerves there is actually shown to improve your ability to cope with stress and anxiety. And in some people who were depressed, their hypothalamic area looked a little bit smaller. So it's a really, just exercise is generally very, very effective. In studies that show the effect of exercise versus, say, taking drugs or prescriptions from your doctors, it was shown to be equal, if not more effective. The mode of exercise, so whether it's aerobic or high intensity, is like, there's been very contrasting studies that revealed overall a leaning towards high intensity training because of the chemical releases based off that. But again, if it's not in your usual routine, then it's maybe taken with a pinch of salt. And there's a lot more obstacles to overcome. Again, I've just written a thing about reverse periodization and how high intensity training at this time could be a good option. However, there's a lot more of a barrier to that exercise. So the adherence in the studies was shown to be less in high intensity sessions because there's more of you've got to psych yourself a lot more and there's a lot more concentration required. But overall, there's more research needs to be done and more conclusive stuff into why exercise is such a good remedy for mental health and keeping your mental well-being and self-care, which is a buzzword that's going around. And to give you a little bit of context into it, 1 in 10 people suffer with anxiety and 1 in 5 people suffer with depression at some point in their life after the age of 16, and it's becoming more and more prevalent in everybody across the world. And this could be due to a number of things, but social media is being thought to be one of those. So less physical contact and chat. Yeah, so that's a brief overview of what the studies have shown. We're actually going to bring Jen on. So Jen is part of our InnerFight community. She's been a massively influential part of just positivity in all the events that we hold, and it's just amazing character. It's got a wicked story to tell and some more first-hand experience in terms of mental health for exercise. So Jen, take it away.
All right, just checking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All good. Okay. Oh, I'm a bit nervous. Fine. Okay, I'm fine.
Just imagine everyone is naked.
Ooh.
If you scroll down, Marcus probably is. I mean.
All right. Well, first of all, hi everyone. I hope I've not disappointed too much at being the special guest.
Special.
Yeah. But I mean, what I do know, what I do hope that, speaking this morning, it's going to allow me to share just how important my journey's been with InnerFight since October last year. So it's quite hard trying to summarize my experience with mental health in about 10 minutes. Sadly, I've actually suffered from generalized anxiety disorder since the age of 18. So I went to my doctor at university about 3 months after starting my degree, admitting that I felt rather unable to cope with certain situations. I'd stopped doing all forms of exercise completely. I had adopted some really unhealthy coping mechanisms. And if I'm going to be very brutal with you all, these included bad relationships with food, it included self-harm. I was really forthcoming with my doctor. I just wanted to feel normal again. And essentially the answer was to put me on medication. There was never any suggestion of exercise. There was never any suggestion of different types of therapy. It was essentially, here's your tablets, off you go, good luck. So I guess the best way of summarizing from that age to the present is probably by reading an excerpt from the email that I sent to Rob Jones the day after running Dubai Marathon this year. So as many of you know, I was part of Project DXB, and he sent me that list of questions to complete as a debrief, and I probably sent him back a bit of an essay. Sorry, Rob.
Took a week of time. It took a week to read.
Shut up. So the last question, number 9, was essentially like any other feedback that I wanted to give. So I requested that this part was specifically read by all the coaches that I'd crossed paths with up until that point. So I'm going to read you a little part of that right now. Dear Marcus, Rob, Tom, and loose-laced skinny Rob. I noticed patterns in my mental health and exercise over the years. When I was at school, I had the happiest childhood ever. I played hockey, basketball, took part in any sport that was thrown at me, quite literally. When I went to uni, I didn't do anything at all, and this is where my mental health started really suffering. I've since gone through ups and downs and found that when I started running in 2013 for the first time, it really helped. Within a year, I'd run my first 5, 10K, half marathon, and full marathon. Unfortunately, I hit a low point again in 2015, and during that time, I barely ran. I came out of it. I then trained for the London Marathon in 2016, and I got a cheeky wee PB. Since moving to Dubai in 2017, my relationship with running has never been the same as it was before, and I've struggled to fall in love with it again. I knew that returning to Dubai in September last year, after taking 6 weeks at home, meant that I needed a focus, and from experience, running's always been the answer. Just also like say that anything I say here, like if anyone does have any questions, like you can message me individually or just chuck them on the chat, just saying. So I'll read the rest of that email later, not the whole email, don't worry. It is a really hard subject to talk about, and I think, as we know, the reason it is so hard to talk about is because we are getting there, but we've not yet reached that point where mental health is as accepted as physical health. And you know, I've experienced it firsthand in the workplace. I was hospitalized with a problem with my stomach once, and I got lots and lots of attention and, oh gosh, what can we do? And then when I've raised my hands and said I suffer from anxiety, there's been panic, what do we do? So unfortunately, my mental health took a rather bad turn for the worse last summer. I was in a job and also in a relationship where both made me feel that I wasn't good enough. It never mattered how much I tried. And in most cases, I usually overcompensated as a means of trying to be liked, trying to be appreciated, trying to be accepted. So I just kept trying, and it only got worse. From May until August last year, I think I must have run twice on the treadmill, maybe about 2 or 3K. I lost so much weight that I had a PT at the time, and he refused to train me as I just had no energy. Things progressively got worse. And sadly, July 18th last year, I put my life in such danger that I ended up being hospitalized. So I spent 4 days in one of the psychiatric wards here in Dubai, which is still quite hard to say out loud, to be honest, but I'm going to carry on. It is really hard to say it out loud, but I wanted to tell you guys because you guys have been my family out here, and I'll explain why. So ask me how I felt when I turned up to my first track Tuesday last November. I was absolutely petrified. The second time that it was horrible, it was scary, but I came back. The second time I came, it was a time trial, and I came last. And I'm sure Tom will remember that I burst into not just tears, but some very snotty tears on the track at the end, because I'd come last, and I was in such a negative mindset of worrying that other people, like wondering what people thought of me, thinking that I wasn't good enough. I found that working with a life coach has been a really good way for me to try and look forward rather than dwell too much on the past and what's happened. So I'm not at all dismissing the benefits of anything else like therapy or counselling or going to see a psychologist. But I think one thing I would say to you guys, that a key learning for me has been to really identify what works for you. So in one of my life coaching sessions, I was challenged to start being a bit more authentic, and to be more open about my anxiety from the get-go, rather than kind of wait and tell people once they got to know me. And sort of I was told that if I tried that, then I would hopefully start to believe that indeed I was good enough. So with those on Project DXB and others who I met generally through Track Tuesday, I felt for the first time that I could actually be myself in Dubai. I wasn't having to put on some act and turn up to brunches because I felt I needed to, and do things to try and please others. I felt that I could just be me, and I could cultivate friendships in the same way that I'd done in Edinburgh and London. I'm sure that Miles will remember one weekend that I did a training run with him and Adriana, and I just burst into tears at the end of the run, and we had a bit of heart to heart, and the understanding and the patience sort of from the two of them was just incredible. My key learning over the last 8 months since being in hospital has been to talk and talk and talk until I'm literally blue in the face, and if people don't want to hear it, it's fine, but I want to talk. In the words of Dr. Seuss, I love this: those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. I was often very honest on the Project DXB WhatsApp group. Some of you might remember. Like a lot of the posts that we had on the WhatsApp group were obviously really lovely. They're all like funny memes and screenshots of what we'd been doing on our training, and, you know, very upbeat and everything. But one day I sort of challenged the norm, I think. And whilst everyone was like, yay, I've done this run and I've smashed this and I've done that, I actually admitted to the group that I'd gone out, I'd run a kilometre, I felt an anxiety attack coming on, and I sat on the beachfront and cried. But I felt that what happened after that was quite incredible, because when I put it out there, other people then started opening up on the group and being like, you know what, I'm actually really nervous about this part of the marathon, and actually I've been really struggling the last few days, whether it was physically or mentally. And I think I managed to kind of set a tone maybe on the group that it actually was okay not to always be okay, and it wasn't all about the memes and the fun stuff. It's something that I'm still working on with my family, and I'm sure that some of you, well, I know that there'll be some of you in this group that struggle with mental health on a personal note, and struggle with mental health with family members. And with family members, it's a difficult one, because, you know, we were never given a manual on how to cope with mental health. We were never given a manual on how to cope with someone in the family. You know, we were taught things at school like first aid, but we were never taught how to cope with someone who was, for example, suffering with a panic attack, or someone that was struggling with anxiety. But by learning to be myself and not be afraid to share my experience, it's changed my life for the better. I'm part of an amazing fitness community, which, you know, goes without saying. I have started my own business, though granted, just before the coronavirus, it maybe wasn't the best plan, but never mind. And I have actually met someone special as well, which has really changed my life, and they do really accept me for me, which is amazing. So I'll finish off by just reading the very last part of that response to good old question number 9. So guys, being part of Project DXB has saved me. That might sound dramatic to a degree, but it's the truth. When I wrote my application for Project DXB, it was in some ways a cry for help, as I knew that if I didn't get back into running, I would risk not recovering properly from my breakdown in the summer. I never want to ever get to a point in my life where I feel that helpless and where I see no point in living. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for choosing me to be part of the team. I know if it hadn't been for this, I would have taken the easier option, and I wouldn't have started my business, and I probably would have returned home to London or Edinburgh. I've now found my Dubai family, and I'm not going anywhere. And I do hope that if you ever encounter anyone else within InnerFight who has experienced or is experiencing any form of mental health struggle, you will allow them to reach out to me, as all I want to do now really is just be able to inspire others, support others, and remind others that it's okay not to be okay. and keep exercising. So that's it. I hope that's what you were looking for, and I hope it wasn't too brutal and raw, but there you go.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions for Jenny, feel free to either send her a message, or you can put them in the chat down the side there. Obviously, that's a very hard thing to do. So thank you again very much, Jenny, for sharing that, guys. I suppose I just was doing a little bit of research back and forth. It was more sport related, but it was looking at the power of community. And I found something from Oxford University, and it was just about the power of, it was exercising in groups, but it looked more specifically at group culture. And they just found that being in a group or being part of a community just significantly increased, first of all, community spirit, obviously, but increased the amount of endorphin release you get, whether it's in a chat like this, or whether it's training together. So like the Track Tuesday sessions, or even if you're just getting on to Zoom and having a good chat with someone. So, you get your endorphin release more so than doing stuff solo. So I really think that in times like this, you just got to keep getting with people, whether it's just getting Zoom on and doing some home training together, make it fun, just get on, have a glass of wine and have a chat with people. Just try and keep community spirit, if you like. This isn't wine, by the way. This is this is electrolyte.
You did that yesterday as well. We were all quizzical.
Yeah, no, you can. It's the endorphin release. What endorphin is, was effectively, it's morphine, isn't it, from within inside your body. So you're getting your opiate high from training or just being with friends, family. I like to think of this community as a little family as well. I think it's super, super powerful.
Yeah, 100%. During my reading, I was reading about similar sort of thing to you, Rob, and how adherence to training protocol, whilst like they did their interventions in terms of clinical studies, and they did an exercise at home by yourself and an exercise in a community, and they found it like the adherence and people sticking to that and the support network within that and the provides produce significantly greater results in terms of, number one, people actually doing it and feeling benefit and getting, a little bit of light relief from anxiety and depression from it. I think it's what Jenny's just said there. I can see on the screen, it's touched a lot of people and it's resonated with a lot of people. And the takeaway message for me and hearing that is that you have to be upfront and talk about it. Don't hide away and think it's all gonna be fine. I think another thing is that social media, if used wrong and relied upon too much for that feeling of satisfaction and self-efficacy, can become a really dangerous tool in terms of projecting this real life of yours that's not entirely accurate or even remotely accurate. So that needs to be, you need to keep an hand on that. So having a shit day, that's okay. I know I've had plenty since lockdown. I've had terrible days where I've just felt super demotivated. I can't get out of bed until like 9:30, which for me is very late. And accepting that might happen and leaning on people who you trust and talk to is so important. I don't know how it is for you, Rob Jones, being solo without your wife and kids.
Well, I put on Instagram, it was, I think last week, before the lockdown happened, I'd gone out for a run. This is when we were still allowed to run. And I'd come past this grassy bit at the end of the street, and there was this dad playing with his daughter, and I just burst into tears. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening to me? This never happens. First time I'd cried in years, aside from like excruciating pain. But I was like, wow. Just like hit me right in the feels, and I would never have imagined that would have happened to me, but everything was just taking its toll, I guess. Well, I'd say social media, like you have to have a look at who you're following on social media, and if everyone is always rainbows and unicorns and fluffy marshmallows, like it's not real. Nobody likes to put the negativity on social media. Heidi always tells me, whenever I'm looking at stuff, she goes, look, that is people's best the best part of their day or the best picture. You know, they've taken 10,000 pictures and they've picked that one, they've edited it, highlighted it, and then put a fancy quote on it. You know, you've just got to sometimes take it all with a pinch of salt and just realize that social media is not always real life. It's the best projected part of someone's day. So if somebody like that is portraying themselves the wrong way, maybe you just need to unfollow them until you're allowed out again.
Until you're allowed out again.
I actually have a question for Jenny. Jenny, for people that are on their own, that are stuck inside, that are starting to feel a little bit down, a little bit negative, have you got any top tips or ways that you sort of keep a handle on things at times like this that could be useful for people?
I just do lots of Zooms, lots of Zoom calls, Zoom. But in saying that though, I think I am quite mindful that it does get a little bit overwhelming just being in front of a screen all the time. So I struggle quite a lot with structure, but I have been really, and that's again why InnerFight really helped for me, because it gave me that structure to be getting up really early, you know, on certain days. And I'm just trying to, don't know, I guess be kind to myself and try and look at, well, what's one thing I can, well, I mean, so like I called my other half the other day. I was sitting on the balcony in absolute tears. I just was like, I just can't cope with this. I don't know how long it's going to go on for. And it was the first time I'd cried in front of him. And again, it was all hysterical and snotty and whatnot. But I was glad I did it, because again, it was just being very open with someone. And, you know, and he said, well, come on, what's one thing that you can achieve today? One thing. And it could be really small. Like, it could be nothing to do with work. It could be nothing to do with exercise. I think as well, what you guys have done in terms of setting challenges for us, that we can still continue doing as a community, I think that's also really important. So if anyone's not kind of got involved, maybe you might consider trying to get involved in one of the fitness challenges, because I think that can also really help and make you not feel as alone. And even though I've chosen not to do the challenge, I have chosen to do something equally as mental.
You've got a different challenge. Don't worry about that.
So yeah, but I mean, it really does come back to talking. And honestly, I mean it when I say that, you know, if anybody wants to like have a coffee chat on Zoom or just like reach out to me, then please do, because, you know, there'll probably not be anything you say that I'm like I'll likely very much get it. So please, you know, it is just all about talking and being honest. That's probably the best thing I can say, really.
So if you've got nobody
Yeah.
to talk to, find someone to talk to, set up a Zoom and just unload.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a really interesting call with Safe Space, EXB, a couple of days ago, because I'm giving a talk to some students in London about like mental health and positive psychology at the end of the month. And I got in touch with Safe Space, and they're like a sort of, some of you will know of them, like an online community support group for mental health. And, you know, I spoke to them and said, you know, do you think you would be able to like get involved? And they're amazing. I mean, I've personally not used them, but I know a lot of people who have, and they are doing like drop-in like sort of Zoom sessions in place of what they usually do in person each week. So again, like if anybody felt that they didn't have anyone to talk to, like I could like come up with like a list of links and put them out to you guys, because there are so many different communities here. I mean, I think mental health or support for mental health is definitely on the increase here, thank goodness. It's just about, you know, being patient, and hopefully in time it will be even better.
Lovely, thank you. Has anyone got any questions? If anyone wants to say anything, stick your hand up or unmute yourself and feel free to chip in.
I thought I'll share a comment. So most of you know that enjoyed running very much over the last couple of months and ran parts of the ultra in the UTMB in Oman. Since that whole homeschooling project has started from KHDA here. And at the same time as Jenny starting my own business, the stress has been tremendous, and I've basically stopped running for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, and it's not good for me, and I miss it as hell. But it's just in the evening, you basically work all the time to get the school done with the kids, and then once they're done, then you start your own work day, and then it's really tough to get everything done. And sometimes you get actually quite a little bit tired of all these motivating messages that are floating around in the web. It's just, as Rob said, yeah, a lot of it is BS, and you're just getting really tired. And by chance, I saw a message from Marcus not on Instagram, it was on LinkedIn, where he said he started, maybe not crying, but he felt really sad when he saw his equipment leaving the business to lease it out to. Yeah, wait. Wow. Okay, give me 5 minutes and I'll come down. Okay, give me 5 minutes, I'll come down.
The homeschooling has started.
Yeah. Okay, look, I need to talk to these guys and I come back in a minute, yeah? Okay, to cut it short, him saying that he had a weak moment, to see someone that usually is full of strength and only positive messages, to see somebody like that to show that he also has a weak spot and then he has a down point, that is not related to physical activity. That he crashes on a workout or on a run is understandable. That he suffers a down point on different reasons, and that was almost more motivating for me than seeing all these motivating messages, because you scroll through them all the time. They're blah blah, in my view, a lot of times, and for those people that need the motivation, they don't do a lot. But that particular post in LinkedIn, it wasn't actually such a, I don't know, a special post, but that openness that he had a weak spot or a weak moment, that actually did a lot for me. So coming back to what Jenny said, yeah, honesty is sometimes more helpful than trying to motivate others.
Yeah, well,
thank you.
See you later, Pops.
Thanks for that, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to add in, talk about, share?
Oh, we got one.
Here we go.
Hey guys, morning. If you want to read a really good book about mental health and exercise, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I read it. I'm an emotional support counselor, so I read it for self-study. I literally had to put that book down a couple of times because I was shaken. What that guy experienced as a kid was unbelievable, and how he came back from, he dropped out of Special Forces and he went back in, and until now, he's the only person ever in the US military who's completed training for all 3 branches of Special Forces. And that was even before the ultra running, and the story is just incredible. So you want to read about that, you want to learn more about that, read his book. Give it a bit of time, but it's amazing. And it actually explains why he's so crazy about it.
For
so
sure,
that's
yeah.
my
Actually,
recommendation.
the audiobook's really good as well, because he narrates in between each chapter, doesn't he? And gives you a lot more than just the book. So yeah, that's very, very good. Thank you for that.
I've actually got a question for Jen as well, just a quick one.
Hiya.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Ash.
When you first went to the doctors and they gave you, I take it as antidepressants, how did that make you feel, and what do you feel the benefit or the negative things were for that? Like, did you do the course and did it have an effect?
I'll be honest, I still take medication now, and it's one of the things that I struggle with massively. It's something that I feel, if I'm going to be honest, very angry about, because it's essentially, I've been on them for such a long time that it has been difficult for me to not be on them, and I'm on a very, 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 very low dose. But then any time that I've tried not to be on them, there's always been a bit of a wobble, and it makes me very it makes me really kind of quite angry, to the point. I'll very quickly just give you another very sort of quick story. When I was back home, I went to my local GP just to get a repeat prescription for all my sort of, bits and pieces. I have to take medicine for my thyroid as well. And this doctor, I'd never seen him before, but he proceeded to spend about 90%, 99% of the appointment quizzing me about my level of thyroxine for my thyroid. And even though all the notes were there, and just went on and on and on, even though he could see on the notes my situation with anxiety and the fact that I was in hospital last year, and he printed out the prescription for that and gave it to me, and I said, "Oh, sorry, you've forgotten about my my other medication." He just pressed the print button. That's all he did. And I got home, this was only about 4 weeks ago. I got home to my mum and dad's, and I howled. I was just so upset, because I was upset for a nation, essentially, thinking this is what is fundamentally wrong about the system, where it is still, unfortunately, far too easy to just press that printing button and hand over a prescription. And I think that if anyone was feeling that they may need to go to the doctor, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that medication doesn't help, but it's one part of it. It's one little piece of like a puzzle of all these different things. And so whilst you shouldn't ever feel ashamed if you have to take medication, it's also important not to see it as something that defines you, and look at the other, like the wider things, but also try and think if there are other ways outside of that. And a good doctor should be able to provide you with support groups. A good doctor should be able to encourage you to do exercise and to see a therapist. And whether that is instead of medication, or whether that is alongside medication, medication's not the answer on its own. At least that's, if I'm not that I'm trying to sort of really project my own opinions, but just from experience, it's been that was hard for me. And unfortunately, as I've said, 4 weeks ago, not a lot seems to be changing from a GP front.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've got, I think, one more question from Benjamin, and then we're going to have to wrap it up.
Hey, you guys. Thank you very much, Jenny, for sharing. I can relate so much to what you've been saying, and it's not as such a question. It's more of, if you see somebody, if you hear somebody that might be suffering, you suspect something. I had a friend who made the biggest difference for me, who just called me. He just picked up the phone, and every day he just called me. He's like, "How are you today? How are you today? How are you today?" And that just feeling of help. Somebody was there, it's really, it was so helpful. It's just a piece of advice for, if you see somebody, just don't nod your head, say it'll be okay. It will be okay, but not if nobody does anything, and just a simple phone call, a simple message has given me strength to help my other friend who's going through some shit at the moment. And along with everything you've said, and the InnerFight brand, and Marcus and you guys in helping, it's just been really, really crazy for me, really crazy good. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
What time are we on? 7:55. Guys, I think we're going to have to wrap this up, I'm afraid, so that people can get to work. Sorry, can I just say one thing, please? Sorry, Tan, you're breaking up there. Can you hear me now? Try again. Can you guys hear me? It's still breaking up. Yeah, it's rattly. Okay, I'll quickly type in this. Okay. Guys, so if you want some more inspiration, motivational talks, and just to hear some really cool guys talking, sharing some good messages, there is Inner Talks at 8:59. Marcus has just put it in the chat as well. Obviously, we are big advocates of fitness and health and movement and how that can just help all areas of life. So please keep training, even if you feel like you just want to sit on the sofa and binge watch Netflix. Don't get up, do your steps, walk around the house, do a press up, a pull up. If you're stuck and you want me to watch you do a press up or pull up on Zoom, I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah, just keep moving, keep getting those endorphins going. Jenny is going to do some incredible things on a rower. I'm sure she's going to Zoom some of that soon. Yes. And
Jenny.
Marcus has actually just dropped the Zoom link in for Inner Talks as well. Taryn, yes, work. Check on your colleagues. It's something we've been pushing a lot in our company. Some people are okay. Some people are not okay being alone at home with the stress of work. Yeah, so I mean, not just this community. Make sure you're checking in on people that you know, that you work with, family members, friends, everybody. We all need to be a big community in this time. So yes, thank you for that.
100%.
Perfect. And Jeff says, call 5 people every day just to say hi. Perfect. Yeah, that's a really good idea. And then
Is that why I got my call yesterday? Yeah, I think just to put my little summary on it, this is a funny old situation, isn't it? We don't really know what's going on, don't know how long it'll last, and by no means are me and Rob experts in mental health. We know what health and fitness does for us, and we see the effect it has on the community around us, and how powerful it is in terms of motivator and like a source of inspiration. It's not always happy and Larry. It doesn't have to be. It's real, and it's like Jen put yesterday. She said, "I want it to be raw and real," and I think that's something as InnerFight brand as well. We don't skirt around stuff. We're not full of shit. We are genuine, and I think the InnerFight community in general like resonates with that and falls in line. I think it's so important.
Perfect.
But thank you so much to everybody there who's spoken today, and tough old subject to speak about. And Jenny showed amazing bravery to come and speak like this, and so speak so well about it and get a point across. So thank you so much.
You could say she showed no weakness by talking about a weakness. That too cheesy? Sorry.
Oh,
the motto. Right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you all hopefully at the Inner Talks at 8:59, and if not, we will see you on...
Well, tonight, actually. Watch me cooking.
Oh.
If you want to see something to really take your mind off nonsense, watch Foster try and cook a curry in 10 minutes.
And I'm doing breakfast tomorrow at 9 a.m. as well.
Literally in your lives every day.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming, guys. We'll see you soon.